All right, everybody. I am going to attempt to do this again. I did it last night and it was garbled. Couldn't understand anything I was saying because felt like interruptions, but some type of internet problem. If anybody's on here and they can hear clearly, let me know. That way I'll know I don't have the same problem. If I do, I'll have to go to a different device. So I don't have my clamp for my tripods. I'm just going to be holding this steady. And so just kind of bear with me. All right, so what I want to talk about tonight is this murder of the squirrel, Peanut. I just found out about it because Trey Smith and I had a phone conversation last night and hadn't even heard about it, so I looked it up. And this is just some evidence of what we're up against right now. And I'm telling you, this is good that a lot of people are looking at this now, and it's the biggest story on the internet, supposedly. So if you're not familiar with it, I'm just going to show you a bit of it, not all this, just so you're familiar with it. And if you are, just bear with me again, okay?
This is a John Wick meme. Yeah, that's right. R.I.P. Peanut the squirrel. What a sweet little animal. And what a rallying cry for the grotesque overreach of the government and the bureaucrats and the evil people that run this place that would rather kill your animals and, quite frankly, like lock you up like they did during COVID.
Also, I don't really know much about having permission to do videos, so if anybody is copied on their video and they don't like it, let me know and I'll delete it. I'm just trying to get an important point across. So hopefully, Benny, you'll allow me to do this, and whoever else I copy.
They don't care. They are soulless. They are monsters. They are anti-life. They're anti-human, ladies and gentlemen. I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. This is what we're stopping. When I say anti-human, there's no other way to, like, it's hard to get through. Watch this video of Peanut the Squirrel's owners.
I agree with it.
Breaking down into tears.
I agree with what he's saying.
And then vote accordingly. Know that there's only one candidate that has RFK, Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard at his back to cut and stop the government insanity and tyranny, and that is Donald Trump, okay? Remember, Peanut, and vote.
We just learned that they have euthanized Peanut.
And the raccoon as well.
And the raccoon as well. I am so sorry. This must be really difficult for you.
It not only tears my family apart, but Peanut was the cornerstone of our nonprofit animal rescue. And 10 to 12 DEC officers raided my house as if I was a drug dealer. I was sat outside my house for 5 hours. I had to get a police escort to my bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to feed my rescue horses breakfast or lunch. I was sat there like a criminal after they interrogated my wife to check out her immigration status, then proceeded to ask me if I had cameras in my house, then proceeded to go through every cabinet, nook, and cranny of my house for a squirrel and a raccoon.
They got a search warrant?
They got a search warrant. 4 departments and a judge signed off on a search warrant for a squirrel and a raccoon. And then they took them and killed them.
Why did they go through all that to get a search warrant for an animal that had been with you very safely, and the world witnessed this for 7 years? Why now suddenly did they show up with a search warrant and take these animals?
We haven't a clue. We don't know who made the complaints. Again, Peanut was an indoor squirrel, not harming anybody. He's been with us for 7 years. Not a single complaint was ever filed for this animal. We had him for 7.5 years. He became the world's most famous squirrel. We weren't hiding him by any means. He was all over TikTok. He became the first squirrel on TikTok to ever hit 1 million followers. He did every news station around the world. He's helped people. He's helped kids gather joy. And then we started a nonprofit animal rescue called Peanut's Freedom Farm to help animals like Peanut fight a good fight when they're in a neglected case or they're sitting in a slaughter auction. and he was the cornerstone of our life and our organization. We used his platform to help raise money for the 300 animals we have at our sanctuary.
So, that's just the beginning. And I'm glad people are watching this, but let's put it into perspective here. This is awful what they've done. This is out of line, inappropriate in its tyranny, which if you don't know what that means running all over you roughshod, crushing you, stomping on you, taking everything that you work for. Basically, this is the enslavement of what they want to do with this police state that they're trying to force upon us, and that's why we are not putting up with it. I want to go into another little, let's see. Yeah, so, okay, it's that type of raid that we are seeing more and more with other people. And here's another guy that went through that type of thing. Oh no! First, let me see if I can get the other one here. Well, I'll start with Roger. Okay. They didn't have to do this, but they did it to him, and he's only one of many that I'm going to show tonight, or not many, but a few.
By Mr. Mueller, the FBI director, who had to have approved this raid, should, in my opinion, be fired over it. Because it was unwarranted. I guess it's an effort to intimidate me, but I am not intimidated. I am concerned for my wife, and one of my dogs is still traumatized, will not come out from under the bed, and won't stop shaking.
Because of the raid?
Yes. Yes, it was terrifying. The allegation that 2 campaign officials instructed me or inquired of me about WikiLeaks is false. I suspect that they can induce somebody to say that, but they would be people either with an axe to grind or seeking a reduction in their sentence. So, as I said yesterday, I will plead not guilty. I will fight the charges. Well, I have said for some time that a runaway federal prosecutor who has no oversight, no limits on his power, not answerable to Congress, not answerable to the executive, not answerable to the courts, in fact, can indict anybody for anything. I admire Richard Nixon for his resilience. A man is not finished when he's defeated. He's only finished when he quits. And I have no intention of quitting.
Yes, sir.
$5, folks.
Okay, scumbag, you're not going to be on my computer because I can't stand diarrhea of the mouth. Let's see here. She was talking about Kamela. And let's see. Oh, here's one. Just a mention. Those of you who are not as old, you won't know about this, but you need to look this up. The Waco Massacre. This was a horrific story, and these men, women, and children, mostly women and children, were literally not allowed to leave this compound by law enforcement. And this was covered up big time. That's why there's documentaries out there on Rumble right now about it. You need to look it up and learn what's been going on for a long time, and learn what law enforcement can get away with when the administration is crooked and allowing this kind of thing. Also, before I leave Roger Stone, I want to show you this. How did CNN, who by the way is in bed with the FBI and the whole regime, how did they just happen to know to be at his house because they were invited? That's why. Watch.
Exclusive CNN video. This is what happened this morning before sunrise, just before 6 a.m., when Roger Stone, longtime Trump associate and advisor, was taken into custody by the FBI. There's a moment of audio on here that I want to play for everyone, because this is what the first sounds that Roger Stone
they sent all these guys
this morning was the FBI pounding
to arrest
on
him
his door and shouting
for no
this.
reason.
I want to just play this for a moment.
No reason. All right, heck with that. All right. I want to show you another one. I hope I got it here. Doggone it. Malinowski. Where the heck is it? I hope I got it somewhere. I thought I had it. Doggone it. I guess I'm going to have to look it up. And while I'm talking to you about it, I'm going to let you know that Brian Malinowski was the assistant director of the Clinton airport in Little Rock, Arkansas. And this Malinowski raid that I thought I had up already, I hope it's going to show it. I got to find it because here we go. Okay, here we go. I'm glad I found it. This is a pre-dawn raid. No warning. All it was this guy was a collector of different things, and then he went into collecting guns, and he started selling a few here and there. And supposedly somebody at the ATF thought, hey, this guy's going to need to get a license. Instead of writing him a letter or calling him on the phone or notifying him, instead of doing that, they go and raid his house pre-dawn hours, banging. They didn't even identify themselves, and look what happens. Oh, jeez, hate that. Okay. All right. This is no less than 10 law enforcement vehicles coming to his house pre-dawn. No sirens, no speakers, nothing. And the amazing thing was, oh, none of these cops, none of the ATF, and whoever else was involved, none of them had their badge cams on. Their cameras were off, so they didn't show how they killed Malinowski. Okay? Now, he's in his home. He hears banging on his door, and he comes out with a gun, not knowing who it is, to protect his wife. Look what these guys do. They come up to the house. What do? Oh, cover up the doorbell the camera so they can't see who's here, and they won't show what really happened. All right? And what did happen? This guy comes to the door, or comes down with his wife behind him. He has a pistol. He sees a bunch of guys breaking into his house. He shoots down to the floor, not even chest high. Shoots down to the floor of these guys, and they shoot and kill him. That was an assassination, my friends. And that is what we're up against right now. You want to vote against tyranny, you really do have to vote for the one they call Orange Man, all right? Because he is the only one who is fighting this wicked regime. And there it was right there. All right, this is something else I want to show. Oh, boy. And if you've ever been involved in human trafficking, fighting it, and what they do to little children, this right here made me want to go through the roof in righteous anger, because this pig comes out, and anybody who's been involved in little children and what they do to them knows that the panda eyes is what happens when evil, wicked people do awful things to little children, and they do it so bad that their physical body is hurt in a lot of ways, and their eyes get blackened. And so this is something I want you to see. This is a continuation.
Guest, please welcome the President of the United States and First Lady Jill Biden.
Oh gosh, you know what? This is not the one. I mean, it is, but I wanted the short version, and I'll just have to tell you about it. When did you see pandas for Halloween, by the way? Aren't there other characters that are a lot more well-known for that? All right. So I don't know if I'll be able to find it real quick, but what he does with little children here is really, really, really sick. And one baby is brought to him and he starts biting on the leg. Another infant is brought to him and he starts putting the little child's foot in his mouth, sucking on the toes. 3 times he did that. You want to, let me tell you something. This is a blatant message to the pedophiles and pervs. We're in with you, okay? And I'm not kidding you. I went crazy, angry. This witch right here, and I'm telling you, she is a witch. You need to find out more on what she has done with little child trafficking as well, and how they were caught in Haiti. How the woman that was caught that worked for Hillary was caught with all these children that she was taking out of Haiti, and the FBI covered it up and did not let it be prosecuted. And what's on Wiener's laptop, you need to find out about that. If you can, it's very difficult to search, but I know someone who actually did see what's on Wiener's laptop, and that wicked creature right there, what she did on that video with Huma Abedin to more than one child is something you don't even want to be described to you. And I'm talking the sickest, awful thing you can imagine. Can you talk softer? All right, so now we're going to go to another event here. By the way, this guy, Mario Murillo, and Pastor Todd Coconato, they've got a good show. And it's actually called Firepower. This one here is Mario Murillo, but that's a good one to watch. I was watching this earlier. I want to mention this too. If you're not paying attention to what happened to North Carolina and the zero help from FEMA. Why? Because they sent all the money to Ukraine, Lebanon. They just sent money to Lebanon as well. I live in North Carolina. I've been involved with trying to get loads of supplies to the victims of North Carolina. And let me tell you, this is a crime, what they have done, how they abandoned these people and insulted them with saying you can apply for $750 to help you, which is absolutely nothing. And I did a whole video on this recently, if you want to look it up. But here's the deal. These people are suffering greatly. And Governor Cooper of North Carolina is complicit as well. And he will be charged for what he did as well, which is nothing. His lieutenant governor actually went out and found all the helicopter pilots wanting to go and be dispatched. He asked them, what are you doing just sitting here? Well, nobody's given the order. We want to go. We can't do it. 4 days into it, 5 days into it, he said, I'll be right back. He made a phone call and he came back to these guys and he said, you got orders, go. Now I'm ordering you, go. So you want to vote for tyranny, you vote for Josh Stein in North Carolina. You want to vote for freedom, you vote for Mark Robinson. All right, I'm going to talk about a couple of other things. Kamela, she's saying her plan, what her plan is to help America get out of the high prices of gas and food and everything else. Excuse me, but isn't she in office right now? Oh, yeah, well, I guess she can't do anything because she's in office right now. Start thinking critically, okay? Why aren't they doing it now? If you got a plan and you're in office now, why don't you do it right now? Because you don't have a plan, and your plan is for the destruction of America, all right? False promises. By the way, this Biden thing, you need to look up the Hunter laptop. Why have they not revealed what's on the Hunter laptop, the Wiener laptop, Epstein's flight log, Start thinking, folks, all right? These people are hiding everything. The media, the mainstream media is hiding everything. Let's go to Afghanistan withdrawal, the fiasco, where they took the American troops out in a terrible way to begin with and left all the American citizens behind, and even stopped civilian efforts with private money, private jets to go over and rescue. And this regime was blocking those planes from landing with the people they were trying to bring back. Okay, that is intentional, just like North Carolina is intentional. They are intentionally screwing the American people. And when you talk about the illegals coming across the border and they're giving them hotels, meals, money, cell phones, everything. By the way, I talked to a trucker that I know in Ohio. He spoke to a woman who works for, I'm not going to mention the truck stop chain right now, but I kind of love it. But she said, and she works in the billing department, that there is a big oversight corporation over all these new immigrant trucking companies. They are billing that particular travel plaza $1.60 a gallon for fuel. And this regime is kicking in the rest with our tax dollars. And I'll guarantee you those people were set up in that business of trucking by our government. And I'll bet you any money they're not paying any taxes. That's very easy to discern. And so us truckers are up against what the regime is bringing in to compete with us. And they are running at dirt cheap expenses, dirt cheap operating expenses. How can we compete with them? They are here to destroy us. You need to realize that. The Afghanistan withdrawal, if that was Trump here, he would have done it the right way. But they purposely do things to demoralize and ruin our military, just like Obama did. People think, oh yeah, Obama didn't have any scandals. That's what he says. Oh, really? So what about all the rules of engagement over there with our troops? You know what he did? He said that you cannot fire on the enemy unless they fire on you first. Doesn't matter if you see them digging a hole and planting an IED in the road. You can't fire at them. And the enemy knew it. And then they said, oh, you have to call for, unless you're fired upon, right? But then that wasn't enough people dying on our side. So what did Obama do? He said, you have to call for permission to fire back. Talk to any of the vets, Afghanistan, Iraq. Talk to them. All right? They screwed us in the back and every other way they could to demoralize us. You talk about a lot of these guys committing the big one. I'm not going to say it because I might get knocked off for it. But hey, you know what? They were screwing us left and right during that regime as well. Trump came in. He took care of business. And if you're a Christian and you think that you shouldn't get involved with politics or you don't like the way he talks, tough crap, okay? You better look at what he stands for. Instead of child trafficking across the border, instead of fentanyl across the border, he wants that border closed. Let me tell you something. Being involved in anti-human trafficking, I knew as soon as they were dropping those little kids and babies over that wall, that was the back order for these pedophile perverts. All right, that was the back order for these SRAs. Look up SRA, okay? Just look it up. Oh God, does this get me angry? I mean, furious. And you got the Gold Star families that lost troops over there, like the 13 that were killed. Plus, you got to remember how many, I think it was 112 or something, that were severely injured from those bombs over there, that suicide bomber, okay? You got to remember when those bodies were being brought back, the butthead and Jill were standing there and he kept looking at his watch with his stupid mask on because, I really don't have time for this. It was a clear statement to our enemies. Don't worry, we got your back. All right? Think, people. I mean, I'm telling you, you got to think. So the Gold Star families, who went and visited them? Oh, by the way, they wouldn't even mention their names. Trump did. Gold Star families. All right? What about the people that lost their little daughters, their young mothers, to the illegals that did horrible things to them, ended their lives? Trump went and visited them, not Biden, not Kamela. All right? Massive incompetence, abandonment of the American people. You got the transgender money for illegals and prisoners that Kamala wants to have us pay for their transgender surgery. By the way, this whole thing about transgender, let's put one thing straight on this. It's a huge money-making opportunity for the drug companies. Once you start this hormone therapy, operations, all that, your drugs that you have to take increase exponentially, and you will be on them for the rest of your life. Did you know that? Yeah, it's a big money-making thing. All right? Are you for trans story hour for kids? Are you for the porn books in schools and libraries? Because that's what this regime is all about. Parents' rights taken away, CPS taking kids. All this stuff is going to end when Trump gets in. He already said he's going to get rid of all these doggone corrupt three-letter agencies, CPS, ATF, EPA, and they've got all their crimes too. I wish I could I might do a video on some of them, especially EPA, for some of the things I'm very familiar with them. They create disasters. All of them do, really. Cross-border fiasco. By the way, the veterans, Trump really straightened out the VA hospital and started taking care of our veterans. What happens now? They're kicked to the streets. Get out of here. We don't want you. All right? What about the war on cops? Obama ushered in the age of lawlessness, by the way, in case you don't know, and the war on law enforcement. Hey, I'm just not going to say that every cop is a good cop. I have definitely run into bad cops many times. Being a trucker, I'm going to tell you, and not even as a trucker, but even as a trucker, I've run into some cops. I wish I could have videotaped what they did and said. I could have gotten them fired. But, you know, the thing is, we got to take care of the good ones, all right? There's good people in every profession. There's bad doctors. There's bad ambulance drivers. There's bad nurses. There's a few, but most of them are good, right? So you got to take care of the good ones, and we need law enforcement, good law enforcement officers. We need good judges. Judges right now, there's so many judges and DAs and prosecutors, they're all corrupt. And I'm telling you, that needs to be cleaned out. These moms that are losing their kids and they're being trafficked. The CPS, the corrupt judges, the corrupt social workers. I'm not saying they all are, but man, I'm telling you, there is some big HT trafficking going on, and it is in-house. And there's a lot more I could say on that. Who else is involved? But I got to be careful. So right now, we're in an age of lawlessness, and it's got to return to law and order. The cost of food and housing and gasoline. When Butthead got in and he killed the Keystone pipeline, but helped the Russians get away with building their big pipeline, yeah, that's why your gas is so high and your energy costs. And they are going to skyrocket under the lie of green energy. That is such a oh gosh. Wind energy. Those big blades, you know how long they are? You know that they're coated with very toxic coating that does not break down, but it does flake off all over the land that they're blowing in. And how many birds do those windmills kill? Those windmills kill all kinds of birds, including endangered species like eagles. And when they put them in the water offshore, it really messes with the communications and emotions of the whales, and they're just going nuts, and dolphins, okay? And when those big blades wear out, they are made of fiberglass. That does not break down environmentally unfriendly stuff. What do? They got a huge canyon that they dug out. I think it was in Arizona. They take the blades out there and they just throw them in this big pit. Those motors, when they fail, they burn, they lose oil. It's so expensive, and I do have a guy that I want to do a video interview on that. It is so expensive to keep these things running, and the amount of energy you get is very limited. Same with solar power. By the way, China is the big supplier of the materials for solar panels, and they are making out like bandits. But then again, Butthead and Camel Dung have been in bed with them for a long time, along with the Clintons and others. And I'm not going to exonerate the Bushes. They are just as evil. They are wicked, evil people. And have you ever thought, why have they been buying up water rights? Nobody should have the right to control our water. That's connected with the EPA's crimes against us too. Trying to give fines and arrest people for saving rainwater. Oh, I did want to show this thing here. This is another one. Glad I thought of it. I want to talk about tyranny. Amos Miller. Are you familiar with the Amos Miller case? I'm going to play this. This is the good lawyer, constitutional lawyer, that took up Amos Miller's case. The Amish farmer who was raided by the FDA, FDA, Food and Drug Administration, and the Department of Agriculture, and the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. And I actually had a video of that thing, but I lost all that I had the other night and I had to start all over today. So I probably don't have that right now. But listen to what this guy says.
Rumble onward. And we'll get to the Rumble suit against New York, which is very good too. Oh, there is an update in the Amos Miller Amish farmer case. For those that don't know, this is the Amish farmer that makes meat the way his customers want it. Right? They don't want USDA inspected meat. They don't want a bunch of chemicals and preservatives and all that crap on it. They don't want big corporate agriculture dictating them.
Hormones and antibiotics.
Say again?
I say hormones and antibiotics are the big ones.
They don't want any of that nonsense.
Oh, I do want to forget. I don't want to forget to mention this. You know how I showed you earlier how the CNN was invited to cover that break-in? Oh, I mean the raid on Roger Stone's house. Do you know that CNN refuses to go to any of the Trump rallies except the one where that guy climbed up on the roof? They were there for that one. Conspiracy theorists. Oh, those are such bad people. Yep. By the way, that word conspiracy theorist, that became very powerful and used when people started questioning that one shooter, supposedly, that shot JFK. And there was like, there's no way he could have done that with that old rifle from the distance that they showed. And so he took the blame, and then they had somebody kill him. And then they killed that guy for killing him, or to silence him, actually. So conspiracy theorists, you got to look up, you got to think for yourself. Why did that term come about? And isn't it meant to silence people? Don't ask questions. How dare you ask questions, right? Think about it.
What they want is, here's an Amish community that, on average, the Amish live longer and live better than the average person in the communities that surround them. Their life expectancy consistently better. They have fewer medical ailments and injuries and problems and psychological issues than their local community. So it seems to me like they're doing something right. So but there's people that some of them for medical disability reasons require the food be made the way in which Amos Miller's farm makes it. There's others that, as a personal choice, they want it that way. Amos doesn't sell any food to anybody that doesn't want it exactly how he's making it. He's
You're
never
not-
mislabeled anything. He's never adulterated anything. And he's never been accused of doing that for any willing, consenting customer.
And I think the most important thing is if you're shopping at Amos's place, you're not doing it by accident. It's not like you're buying it off a shelf and don't know.
And he's telling you, he's not putting USDA inspected label on his thing. He's not selling it to the local grocery store. He's not saying it has preservatives and chemicals that it doesn't have. He does none of that. He sells to people who say, Amos, we want it made exactly the way you make it, which is without all these chemicals, without all these preservatives, without all this crap made in a way that promotes organic farming, a farming that has been a tradition within the Amish community for centuries. And the U.S. government came in and years ago, the U.S. Department of Agriculture was given the power to, again, protect informed consent. It goes back to that principle. The goal being that what was happening in 1900s was that you go to the store and you buy something that said kidney beans, and inside was green beans. Inside was mash. Inside was, Spam. So, it was that bad. So in order to prevent that, they said, well, we're going to create a labeling agency that says if you sell in interstate commerce, when you put the label on it, what's in there has to be what's on the label. This is also how the FDA started. And it's actually their whole authority.
Now, before I forget, there was another thing I wanted to mention. I highly recommend that you get this book right here, Killing the Planet, by Rodney Howard Brown and Paul L. Williams. This book will blow your mind, and it goes deep beyond all the puppet masters, who they really are, and the families that got started, how wicked they are, and how they took control of basically everything. Railroads, power, energy, water. They control the governments. They start the wars, and it's all proven in this book with sources and references. So get the book.
If somebody's selling you a medicine, what's actually in that medicine has to be represented on the outside of the label. That's what just as the FDA was not given the authority to govern medicine, and most of them have no clue, many of them are not doctors at all. The USDA was never given the power to control food. They were only given the power to control labeling. And many of the bureaucrats at the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, they're not farmers. Many of them have zero experience farming. They have no idea what they're doing. And yet they're running around telling farmers how to farm. What they're supposed to be doing is just checking the label. So they come after Amos. They come after him aggressively over multiple years. And he retained me a month or so ago.
Well, hold on. Stop there. Because he retained you after having gotten fined $250,000.
There's a whole host of issues. The reason why he retained me is next Friday, what was scheduled to occur on December 16th, was Amos Miller going to jail, being jailed, a judgment of over $300,000, monetary judgment being issued against both him and his wife and his farm, which they could immediately collect upon, which could shut down his farm while he's jailed. And there was a bunch of arrested meat that he couldn't do anything with in the interim. Meat that had been seized because it didn't comply with USDA's definition of what's a good meat. They call it adulterated if it doesn't fit their standard. In my view, that's a complete misapplication of the term. Adulteration is supposed to be me lying to the public about what's in the meat, not I don't do it the way the U.S. Department of Agriculture likes me to do it. That's a misapplication of the word and the label. But it's what happens. You give them a little bit of a creak at open that door. They want to come in and they want to control now what you can put in your own body. Because this case is fundamentally not only about preventing Amos Miller from farming the way his religious community traditionally farmed, it's also about ordinary people getting to decide what I put in my body. I don't want USDA nonsense. I want something that's not USDA controlled. In the century or so since the USDA is involved, including the food pyramid over the last half century, people have gotten fatter and sicker and fatter and sicker and fatter and sicker.
On purpose.
The USDA is an embarrassment of an agency,
Yep.
and an honest government would just eradicate it, period. That's my view of the USDA. They have failed their test to protect public health. They have made our public health worse over and over and over again. It's why so many people want Amos Miller-style produced food. It's healthier. That's why. And not just control, they're better, more informed than the average USDA bureaucrat is. So there's USDA USDA employees who also attest to this, by the way, or publicly attesting to this. So the goal was there's a short-term, mid-term, and long-term perspective on the case. From Amos's perspective, it was to remove the guillotine of going to jail, and I found that absurd and outrageous. Number one. Number two, remove this big monetary judgment from being issued that could bankrupt his farm. And number three, reduce the amount overall while getting some release of this arrested food so his farm can survive economically while we negotiate a more intermediate solution. Because the U.S. Attorney's Office has been very fair in Pennsylvania and says they only want to promote the same understanding as I have of the law, which is just to make sure people are getting what they want to get within the law. And I don't trust that the USDA has the same motivations in the case, but we'll find out in time. So, but the intermediate solution is to be able to keep the farm afloat and alive and people be able to get the product they want. Long-term solution is to build a custom exception plan that allows people to get the food they want and farmers to make it the way they want without the government overseeing all of it and limiting what they do. And in fact, there's a custom exception plan written into the law to accommodate that, including that they really don't have the authority to govern, in my view, personal food consumption, period. But there's people at the USDA who are asserting they do have that right, by the way. They're trying to say, if you go fishing, Viva, and you bring that fish home, you better go get USDA approval before you eat it or feed it to your kids. That's the level of insanity of some of these USDA.
That's right.
Well, we did reach a settlement on the short-term issues. The contempt hearing will not take place next Friday. It has all been put in stay in abeyance. There's going to be no monetary judgment of some big amount. There's a reasonable payment plan on some of the much more modest amounts.
Okay, if you're interested, you can watch that one yourself. But I did want to mention that what we are up against right now is total tyranny. And I'm going to tell you, Trump is going to be like a Moses. He is going to lead his people out from under the enslavement of the cabal, C-A-B-A-L. And that is part of what that book is that I was showing you. That's a powerful book, Killing the Planet. You really do want to read that book. Published in 2019. And you will be blown away by the stuff that it reveals. They are purposefully keeping us sick. All the natural doctors, by the way, one section of that showed that between 2015 and 2018, 90 natural homeopathic doctors were, let's use the word, eliminated in very suspicious ways, okay? Because why? It threatens big pharma, the big drug companies. Because if you can get healthy naturally with herbs and plants and natural things, did you know that the FDA was trying to outlaw vitamin C to be used intravenously, which also jumpstarts your body and helps your body heal? Yeah. That's probably something that's kind of hard to find right now. And there was a number of other things they were trying to outlaw because they are owned by big pharma. Rockefeller would be a big name you want to keep in your diaper because that's where it belongs. So I hope you think clearly. If you're a Christian and you think, oh, I can't vote for Trump because he's a nasty person, you need to look at the nasty agenda from the other side. You need to think clearly, think biblically, hold up to Scripture both sides. Look at Kamela. She tried running with all those other Democrats. She had to fall out first because she had less than 3% of the vote or support. And by the way, this is a coup and they'll be charged with it. You cannot supplant the current president who is running and just put somebody else in there to run without going through a voting process. So that already is completely illegal, which is nothing to them because everything they do is illegal. So I hope you are considering the future of your kids and grandkids, if you want to prevent your little kids, grandkids, children from being perverted by the perversions going on, then you really do need to not just consider, but vote for Trump, okay? And too many pastors think you can't mix policy or politics with the gospel from the pulpit, but you don't have to tell anybody who to vote for. All you got to do is use examples, and it's too late now, it's after Sunday, but they could have been using examples of each side and say, hold these up to Scripture. What does Scripture say? What do they say? What do they do? Forget about what they say. What do they do? I hope you got something out of this. I'm going to end it now.